Greetings, brothers and sisters. Tonight is May 24th, 2026. It's currently 23 after 5 p.m. in Atlanta. My name is Brother John Hargrove. I serve as the president for the Atlanta division, Dr. Julius Neri, CBPM Division 421 of the UNIA-ACL. Tonight we'll be looking at the Willie Lynch letter and the making of a slave as it is titled in context. Um, and we'll open the floor for discussion, and then we'll do member share as we prepare to close out. So, as always, we'll open up officially with our pledge. So, if everyone would, please come off mute and repeat after me. I'm gonna make sure I got the right one displayed. Let's share. If everyone would, please come on mute. Put your right fist in the air. Stand at attention. Put your right fist in the air. Repeat after me. I commit my body, mind, and spirit
I commit my body, mind, and spirit
to the protection, defense, and security
to the protection, defense, and security
of the red, black, and green.
of the red, black, and green.
I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa
I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa
and the liberation of her scattered black children.
and the liberation of her scattered black children.
I accept for myself and my descendants
I accept for myself and my descendants
the teachings of universal African nationalism.
the teachings of universal African nationalism.
And I promise that our children will be instilled
And I promise that our children will be instilled
with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people.
with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people,
In order that the cause of our struggle
in order that the cause of our struggle
will neither falter nor fail
will neither falter nor fail
until all Black people are free and united
until all Black people are free and united
through one God,
through one God,
one aim,
one aim,
one destiny.
and one destiny.
And you may be seated and you can mute your lines. Takes care of our opening, our pledge to the UNIA flag. We do have an official quorum of 7, so this will be an official mass meeting with, quorum and call to order. Our first ritual is from Greenland's icy mountains. I'll take care of that. Which states, from Greenland's icy mountains, from India's coral strand, where Africa's sunny fountains roll down their golden sand, from many ancient rivers, from many palmy plains, they called us to deliver their land from error's chain. Shall we whose souls are lighted with wisdom from on high, shall we to men be knighted, the lamp of life deny? Salvation, O salvation, this joyful sound proclaim, to earth's remotest nation has learned Messiah's name. Waft, waft, ye winds, his story, and you, ye waters, roll, till like a sea of glory it spreads from pole to pole. To o'er our ransomed nation, the Lamb for sinners slain, Redeemer, King, Creator, and bliss returns to reign. Please assume the position of prayer. Opening prayer. Almighty God, whose kingdom is everlasting and power infinite, be gracious unto the Universal Negro Improvement Association, and so rule the hearts of thy servants, the President General and members of the High Executive Council, and all others in authority, that they, knowing their great responsibility of their office, may above all things seek the honor and welfare of this race, and grant that our people, considering the authority they bear, may faithfully and obediently honor them in accordance with our laws, through Jesus Christ our Lord, who with thee and the Holy Ghost liveth and reigneth ever, one God, world without end. Amen. And our final ritual, opening ritual, shine on eternal light. Shine on eternal light to greet our souls this day, dispel the gloominess of night and drive our doubts away. Our longing eye prepare when war and strife shall cease, to view the morn soon to appear, the new era of peace. Thy glorious church, O God, no kingdom can remove, made without hands, the blessed abode, the harbinger of love. Of all thy gifts that flow from thy great throne above, we ask thee on our hearts bestow the gift of perfect love. My soul the light receives and dares the truth to prove, not in blind ignorance believes, but knows that God is love. Come, love, and give new birth to man's destructive mind. Spread where confusion reigns on earth, goodwill to all mankind. Shine on, eternal light. Thy penetrating ray shall turn the hour of darkest night into eternal day. Amen. Ashe. Okay, takes care of our opening rituals. Roll call. Should be brief. Got a tight seven today. We have myself, President John. We have our Lady President, Lady President Diane. First Vice President, Brother Macius. Our Legal Defense Committee Coordinator, Attorney Imhotep. Recording Secretary, Brother Art. Member out of Alabama, Brother Nkosi. And a member, Queen Kashiba, you in California? I believe she's in California.
Yeah, I'm in Virginia Beach,
Virginia
North
Beach.
Virginia.
Okay. All right. 757.
Yeah, 757.
All right. Thank you, sister.
Right.
We got seven ground rules. Please keep your line muted when you're not speaking. Take notes so that you can, when you do have an opportunity to speak, you can ask questions. Sisters, don't give out your personal information. Rather give out a business line or email, and that's about it. I'll go over our preamble, then I'll pass it to Brother Art to read the minutes from our previous meeting. Preambles of the UNIA states that the Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a social, friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society. It is founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the Negro peoples of the world. And the members pledge themselves to do all in their power to conserve the rights of their noble race and to respect the rights of all mankind, believing always in the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. The motto of the organization is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all mankind, realizing that if the strong oppresses the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mark the path of man. But with love, faith, and charity towards all, the reign of peace and plenty will be heralded into the world, and the generations of men shall be called blessed. Preamble to UNIA. Brother Art.
Greetings, 421.
Greetings, greetings.
Who's first? The last meeting was 5/10/26, and we met quorum. The meeting started late because we met quorum late. We went through the pledge, and then we did the roll call. And on the roll call, we had, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 eventually. And then we jumped to the questions on upcoming events. And questions were about the flyers that Diana asked about, and and she said she was going to the printer. Then we had the flyer on Howell Park about the Malcolm X Day event, and then the Garvey Day flyer also. And then a meeting was planned for Tuesday to show an example of the flyer. Eric asked about if we had what's needed for Garvey Day. And President John said we didn't have a table for Malcolm X Day. It was too expensive to get at that time. Brother Nkosi asked about vending items, t-shirts, flags, and books. President John had a statement from Garvey on page 49, volume 1. The lack of cooperation and knowledge was shared and explained. Then Diane asked about the performers and the setup for the upcoming events. Cicely asked about Marta, the bus in Atlanta, and that it was being removed from her community and certain Black communities in Atlanta, and the effect it was going to have on the community. And I asked questions about the FIFA funding questions. Then upcoming programs for the African Liberty Day and Juneteenth, and how these events were going to be carried out. And then we close with Garvey's speech, and then we close with the motto and the slogan. And that was at 6:30. So we had a good hour and a half meeting. And that's what I have. Race first, family. And let me know if I missed anything or forgot to put something down.
Any questions, comments, observations on minutes from April 10th? Is that April 10th?
Yeah, no, May 10th.
Oh, May 10th. Okay. Okay. If there's no objection or questions, please send that to myself and Sister Cecily to be included in our official report.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. With that taken care of, that takes care of all of our opening items. We can move to our topic for today. Opening my documents. I'm sure we've heard of Willie Lynch letter. Anybody that has not heard of the Willie Lynch letter or is aware of the Willie Lynch letter? Any questions about the letter that we can try to answer today?
I've heard of it. I don't verbatim know what it contains, but this will be a nice refresher.
Okay. Thank you, Lady President. Okay, if there aren't any other questions, let me grab a water. A second. Start. Okay, title of the letter, Willie Lynch letter, specifically the making of a slave is what the topic is in reference to. Um, okay. If anyone would like to read, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll just start reading.
President John.
Brother Art, you say you would?
Yeah.
All right, I'll get started. Just be on standby.
Okay.
Willie Lynch letter, The Making of a Slave. This speech was delivered by Willie Lynch on the bank of the James River in the colony of Virginia in 1712. Lynch was a British slave owner in the West Indies. He was invited to the colony of Virginia. Brother Art, your line's not muted. He was invited to the colony of Virginia in 1712 to teach his methods to slave owners there. The term, quote unquote, lynching is derived from his name. Greetings, gentlemen. I greet you here on the banks of the James River in the year of our Lord 1712. First, I shall thank you, the gentlemen of the colony of Virginia, for bringing me here. I am here to help you solve your problems with slaves. I'll turn my camera back on. Your invitation reached me on my modest plantation in the West Indies, where I have experimented with some of the newest and still the oldest methods for control of slaves. Ancient Rome would envy us if my program is implemented. As our boat sailed south on the James River, named for our illustrious king, whose version of the Bible we cherish, I saw enough to know that your problem is not unique. While Rome used cords of wood as crosses for standing human bodies along its highways in great numbers, you are here using the tree and the rope on occasions. I caught the whiff of a dead slave hanging from a tree a couple miles back. You're not only losing valuable stock by hangings, but you are having uprisings. Slaves are running away. Your crops are sometimes left in the field too long for maximum profit. You suffer occasional fires. Your animals are killed. Gentlemen, you know what your problems are. I do not need to elaborate. I'm not here to enumerate your problems. I'm here to introduce you to a method of solving them. In my bag here, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can use it. I've outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I take these differences and I make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. These methods have worked on my oldest plantation in the West Indies and it will work throughout the South. Take this simple list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There's intelligence, size, sex, sizes of plantations, status on plantations, attitude of owners, whether the slave lives in the valley or on a hill, east, west, north, south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Now that you have a list of differences, I shall give you an outline of action. Before that, I assure you that distrust is stronger than trust and envy stronger than adulation, respect, or admiration. The black slaves, after receiving this indoctrination, shall carry on and will become self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black slave versus the young black male, and the young black male against the old black male. The old black male versus the young black male. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the light-skinned slaves, and the light-skinned slaves versus the dark-skinned slaves. You must use female versus male. Sorry. You must use female versus male and male versus female. You must also have white servants and overseers who distrust all blacks. But it is necessary that your slaves trust and depend on us. They must love, respect, and trust only us. Gentlemen, these kits are your keys to control. Use them. Have your wives and children use them. Never miss an opportunity. If used intensely for 1 year, the slaves themselves will remain perpetually distrustful. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's make a slave. Uh, it was the interest and business. In the N word, I'll use Negro instead of what's actually typed just for purpose of education and proliferation of the message. Let's make a slave. It was the interest and business of slaveholders to study human nature, and the slave nature in particular, with a view of practical results. I and many of them attended astonishing. I and many of them attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. Thank you. They had to deal not with earth, wood, and stone, but with men. And by every regard, let me zoom in on this just a little bit. I had many of them attained, oh wait, I'm sorry. I and many of them attained astonishing proficiency in this direction. They had not to deal with earth and stone. Okay, that's what I didn't want to do. Apologies. They had not to deal with earth and stone, but with men. By every regard they had for their own safety and prosperity, they needed to know the material on which they were to work. Conscious of the injustice and wrong they were every hour perpetuating, and knowing what they themselves would do. Were the were they the victims of such wrongs? They were constantly looking for the first signs of the dreaded retribution. They watched, therefore, with skilled and practiced eyes, and learned to read with great accuracy the state of mind and heart of the slave through his sable face. So it's talking about studying the psychology of those that were enslaved. Unusual sobriety, apparent abstractions, sullenness and indifference indeed. Any mood out of the common was afforded ground for suspicion and inquiry. That's an important line when you think about stop and frisk. That ICE is very common for doing it now, but harassing individuals, not having a legal cause to be questioned, but they still question you because of some unusual behavior. In this text, it describes it as unusual sobriety, apparent abstraction, sullenness, and indifference. Indeed, any mood out of the common was afforded grounds for suspicion and inquiry. Frederick Douglass, let's make a slave is Frederick Douglass, let's make a slave is a study of the scientific process of man breaking and slave making. It describes the rationale and results of the Anglo-Saxons' ideas and methods of ensuring the master-slave relationship. Let's make a slave the original and developmental development of a social being called the Negro. Let us make a slave. What do we need? First, we need a big black Negro, a pregnant Negro, and her baby Negro boy. So, man, woman, and child. The original. What's not trilogy, but what's that word I'm looking for? Similar to trilogy. Okay, but yeah, that was the original target. First, black man, black woman, black child. Second, we will use the same basic principle that we use in breaking a horse, combined with some more sustaining factors. What we do with horses is that we break them from one form of life to another. That is, we reduce them from their natural state in nature, whereas nature provides them with the natural capacity to take care of their offspring. We break the natural string of independence from them and thereby create a dependency state so that we may be able to get from them useful production for our business and pleasure. So it's talking about attacking the natural state of the Negro man and woman, their natural ability to reproduce um, and be self-sufficient is what it's speaking to. And they're using the horse and their, taming of a horse, if you will, as an example for how they can tame or train the Negroes for uh, servitude. Cardinal principle for making a Negro. For fear that our future generations may not understand the principles of breaking both of the beasts together, the Negro and the horse. We understand that short-range planning economics results in periodic economic chaos, so that to avoid turmoil in the economy, it requires us to have breadth and depth in long-range comprehensive planning, articulating skill, both skill sharp perceptions. We lay down the following principles for long-range comprehensive economic planning. Both horse and Negro are no good to the economy in the wild or natural state. Both must be broken and tied together for orderly production. For orderly future, special and particular attention must be paid to the female and the youngest offspring. Both must be crossbred to produce a variety and division of labor. Both must be taught to respond to a particular new language. Psychological and physical instruction of containment must be created for both. We hold the six cardinal principles as truth to be self-evident, based upon the following discourse concerning the economics of breaking and tying the horse and the Negro together, all inclusive of the six principles laid down above. Note, neither principle alone will suffice for good economics. All principles must be employed for orderly good of the nation. Accordingly, both a wild horse and a wild natural Negro is dangerous, even if captured, for they will have the tendency to seek their customary freedom, and in doing so, might kill you in your sleep. You cannot rest. They sleep while you are awake and are awake while you are asleep. They are dangerous near the family and house, and it requires too much labor to watch them away from the house. Above all, you cannot get them to work in this natural state. Hence, both the horse and the Negro must be broken, that is, breaking them from one form of life to another. Keep the body, take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. Now, the breaking process is the same for both the horse and the Negro, only slightly varying in degrees. But as we said before, there's an art in long-range economic planning. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female and the offspring of the horse and the Negro. A brief discourse in offspring development will shed light on the key to sound economic principles. Pay little attention to the generation of original breaking, but concentrate on future generations. Therefore, if you break the female mother, she will break the offspring in the early years of development. And when the offspring is old enough to work, she will deliver it up to you for her normal female protective tendencies will have been lost in the original breaking process. For example, take the case of the wild stud horse, a female horse and an already infant horse, and compare the breaking process with two captured Negro males in their natural state. A pregnant Negro woman with her infant offspring. Take the stud horse, break him for limited containment. Completely break the female horse until she becomes very gentle, whereas you or anybody can ride her in her comfort. So, in a natural state, horses don't allow people to ride them. That is a breaking process that has to take place to where the horse submits to a particular individual being able to ride them, But if you break them thoroughly, then anybody can ride the horse. Completely break the female horse until she becomes whereas anybody can ride her in her comfort. Breed the mare and the stud until you have the desired offspring. Then you can turn the stud to freedom until you need him again. So using the male specifically for breeding purposes, but nothing more in the initial state. Train a female horse whereby she will eat out of your hand, and she will in turn train the infant horse to eat out of your hand. So allow the male to run free, only call on him when you need to reproduce. But while the male is out running free, you're teaching the female and the offspring to eat out of your hand. And this would be from a slave master standpoint. When it comes to breaking the uncivilized Negro, use the same process but vary the degree and step up the pressure so as to do a complete reversal of the mind. Take the meanest and most restless Negro, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male Negroes, the female and the Negro infant. Tar and feather him, tie each leg to a different horse facing in opposite directions, set him afire, and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining Negroes. The next step is to take a bullwhip and beat the remaining Negro males to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Do not kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding. This is an important first step. We'll look at what the end goal is, which has kind of been touched on already. But the first step is in breaking the infant and teaching the female and the infant to eat out of the slave master's hand is to first break the men and break their psychology, break their courage, and that's what this is speaking to. You take the strongest, what did he say? The meanest, most restless, the one that's most rebellious, you make an example of him. And you do that publicly, such that the other male Negroes understand what could happen. But in addition to showing that example, you you beat, the male Negroes close to the point of death, but you don't kill them. You put the fear of God in them. And that's the key takeaway. You put the fear of God in the men, and I think that subsequently that will transfer over to the women feeling less secure. The
Well,
breaking,
the one with the horse is definitely killing them.
say again,
The one with the horse, the first example. No, nobody's gonna survive that.
what do you mean?
With the horse, the two horses. Or did I miss that?
Which horses? No, there was no death for the
You tie the person to the horse and have the horse run in either direction.
that kills that'll tear the man in half.
Exactly.
Um,
So so that's a death right there.
yeah, but you got to think about the psychological impact of that. You're killing one to control, 100, potentially 1,000. But that one is somewhat necessary uh, in this process and how it's being described. You have to take the meanest, you have to take the most restless, the most revolutionary, and you make a public example of them. You kill them publicly. Um, and when you think about like, us in modern time as a people, uh, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King would probably be examples that we could put forth and ask the question, you know, what strong black male leaders have we had since those two brothers were publicly executed? Um, and it'll show the effectiveness of that strategy, but how it's so effective is what we'll talk about now. The breaking process of the African woman. So this again, you just broke the man, you broke the men, you break the men by putting the fear of God in them. Look what happened to the biggest and best of us, the most revolutionary of us. Not only that, they beat the men close to the point of death, put the fear of God in them. So now we turn to the woman. Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her every way because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance in submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of B word out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so, you spoil good economics. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, she will go deeper into this area of the subject matter concerning what we have produced here in this breaking process of the female Negro. We have reversed the relationship. In her natural uncivilized state, she would have a strong dependency on her uncivilized Negro male, and she would have a limited protective tendency toward her independent male offspring and would raise male offspring to be dependent like her. So that is the second aspect of this psychological attack is to make the woman feel dependent and to teach her offspring to be dependent as well. But you can't, based on what we just saw and what they did to the men, that instills the psychology into the woman that she can't depend on the man. The man is afraid if he does too much or is too rebellious, he'll be killed. So compliance is teaching a level of compliance. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning up and pulling a civilized Negro apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death. So, again, he's saying with the natural balance, they would depend on the men for protection, but based on what they did and the example that they made, they can't depend on the men as they naturally would. Pulling a civilized Negro apart, bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. So she sees this. She sees the physical impact as well as the psychological impact. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychologically dependent state to a frozen, independent state. So again, when we think about the attack on the black family, the proliferation of government assistance, and how that encourages, single parent homes. But these are some things to consider. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychologically dependent state to a frozen, independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reversed roles. For fear of the youngest male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offspring to be psychologically independent. What have you got? You've got the Negro woman out front and the Negro man behind and scared. And that is a reality of, the Black leadership today, particularly Black political leadership. We have a lot of our sisters out front, whereas the men are kind of playing in the background. This is a perfect situation of sound sleep and economics. So this is perfect for the slave master to be at peace. When you have um, a woman feeling independent and being out front, and the man being scared and being in the background. Before the breaking process, we had to be alertly on guard at all times. Now we can sleep soundly, for out of the frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. So as they talked about the dynamic of the man, woman, and child, and they're going heavily on the dynamics between the man and the woman, and it's basically saying they created a situation where the women, they will create a situation where the Negro woman, in essence, protects um, or provides peace to the slave master's system, um, because of what has been done and what she's seen psychologically. She protects her future offspring from experiencing that, and the way to protect them is to teach compliance, and that again correlates to peace for um, the slave master and his system. He cannot get her. Let's see. Now we can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. He is a good tool, now ready to be tied to the horse at a tender age. By the time a nigger boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a long life of sound and efficient work and the reproduction of a unit of good labor force. So he's ready to put in work. I think I heard somebody in the legal realm speak to putting young men to work and earning sweat equity. But we know it's different ways of saying slavery, forced servitude. But that's the goal of what they are trying to achieve. And with this process, this psychological process, it says that by the age of 16, young Negro boys will be ready to work and be willing to work continually through the breaking of uncivilized savage Negroes by throwing the Negro female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the Negro male slave. We have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves. We show what we mean we show what we mean by example. Take the case of the two economic slave units and examine them closely. The Negro marriage. We breed two Negro males and two Negro females. Then we take the Negro male away from them and keep them moving and working. Say one Negro female bears a Negro female and the other bears a Negro male. Both Negro females, being without influence of the Negro male image, frozen with an independent psychology. So the single mother, the typical single mother um, mentality that we speak about now. You have a child, but you can't depend on the assistance of the man. Frozen in the independent psychology will raise their offspring into reverse positions. The one with the female offspring will teach her to be like herself. So we'll teach our single mother will teach her child or daughter to be independent and negotiable. We negotiate with her, through her, by her, negotiates her at will. The one with the Negro male offspring, she will be frozen subconscious fear for his life. So again, the image of breaking the male protector, um, killing the most revolutionary and beating the others close to death. The mother, in an effort to protect her male child, um, she'll raise him to be dependent and weak, but physically strong. In other words, body over mind. Now, in a few years, when these two offspring become fertile for early reproduction, we will mate and breed them and continue the cycle. So you're breeding a um, physically strong and mentally weak Negro boy with an independent minded Negro girl. And he says this is good, sound, long range, comprehensive planning is to continue that breeding process. Warning, interloping negatives. Earlier, we talked about the non-economic good of the horse and the Negro in their wild or natural state. We talked about the principle of breaking and tying them together for orderly production. Furthermore, we talked about paying particular attention to the female savage and her offspring for orderly future planning. Then, more recently, we stated that by reversing the position of the male and female savages, we created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts positions of the male and female savages. Our experts warned us about the possibility of this phenomenon occurring, for they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time if it can touch some substantial original historical base. So this speaks to the attack on history. They know that it's almost like hypnosis. They've put us under a spell, under certain cycles, self-defeating, self-destructive cycles. But if we're able to tap into our history, tap into um, you know, who we were on the motherland, our positions, our ability to create civilizations, writing, mathematics, leadership, agriculture. Those types of things break the spell, because we're taught to be docile and dependent, but then our history shows that we could be independent, self-reliant, and self-governing. So that when we see that, it's a I don't know if it's cognitive dissonance, but it breaks the psychological spell, and we know that the positions that they've relegated us to or taught us to be comfortable with are not our natural state in this world. For they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time if it can touch some substantial original historical base. And they advise us the best way to deal with the phenomena is to shave off the brute's mental history and create multiplicity of phenomena of illusions so that each illusion will twirl in its own orbit, something similar to floating balls in a vacuum. It sounds like if you tell a lie long enough and often enough, it will eventually begin to feel as though it's true. So if they tell us that we're supposed to be a certain class or a certain status, over years and years and years, eventually we'll start to accept it and believe it. This creation of multiplicity of phenomenon of illusion entails the principles of crossbreeding the Negro and the horse, as we stated above, the purpose of which is to create a diversified division of labor, thereby creating different levels of labor and each different levels of labor and different values of illusion at each connecting level of labor. The result of which is the severance of the points of original beginning for each sphere of illusion. Um, but you begin to create false realities, that justify, your position and your ideology. That's also a psychological. I forgot exactly the term, but it's a psychological phenomenon that protects your mind. When you go through certain things, you'll create, a imaginary reality behind it to justify the condition or the experience. But I forgot the psychological term for it. Orbiting cycle means a thing turning in a given path. Axis means upon which or around which a body turns. Phenomenon, Brother Art, if you could help me. Phenomenon means something beyond ordinary conception and inspires awe and wonder. Multiplicity means a great number. means a globe. That's a sphere, the globe. Crossbreeding a horse means taking a horse and breeding it with an ass, as you get a dumb, backward ass, long-headed mule that is not reproductive nor productive by itself. For the art, I think it's just a little bit left.
Okay, what's that? Crossbreeding?
Yes, crossbreeding.
Crossbreeding Negroes mean taking so many drops of good white blood and putting them into as many Negro women as possible. Verifying the drops by the various tone that you want, and then letting them breed with each other until another circle of color appears as you desire. What this means is this put Negroes on the horse in a breeding pot, mix some asses and some good white blood, and what do you get? You got a multiplicity of colors and ass backwards, unusual niggas running to back ass long heels. The one productive self, the other who.
Sterile.
You're breaking up, brother Art. Brother Art, you there?
You want me to read it?
If you, yeah, please, Late President.
Is he back? Okay.
You can start.
The one's constant, the other dying. We keep the Negro constant, for we may replace the mules for another tool. Both mule and Negro tied to each other, neither knowing where the other come from, and neither productive for itself, nor without each other. Controlled language. Crossbreeding completed for further severance from their original beginning. We must completely annihilate the mother tongue of both the new Negroes and the new mule, and institute a new language that involves the new life's work of both. Language is a particular institution. It leads to the heart of a people. The more foreigner knows about the language of another country, the more he is able to move through all levels of that society. Therefore, if the foreigner is an enemy of the country to the extent that he knows the body of the language, to the extent is the country vulnerable to attack or invasion of a foreign culture. For example, if you take a slave, if you teach him all about your language, he will know all your secrets, and he is then no more a slave, for you can't fool him any longer. And being a fool is one of the basic ingredients of any incidents to the maintenance of the slavery system. For example, if you told a slave that he must perform in getting out our crops, and he knows the language well, he would know that our crops didn't mean our crops, and the slavery system would break down. For he would relate on the basis of what our crops really mean. So you have to be careful in setting up the new language, for the slave would soon be in your house, talking to you as man to man, and that is death to our economic system. In addition, the definition of words or terms are only a minute part of the process. Values are created and transported by communication through the body of the language. A total society has many interconnected value system. All of the value in the society as bridges of language to connect them for orderly working in the society. But for those language bridges, these many value systems would sharply clash and cause internal strife or civil war. The degree of the conflict being determined by the magnitude of the issue or relative opposing strength in whatever form. For example, if you put a slave in a hog pen and train him to live there and incorporate in him to value it as a way of life completely, the biggest problem you would have out of him is that he would worry you about provisions to keep the hog pen clean, or the same hog pen and make a slip and incorporate something in his language whereby he comes to value a house more than he does his hog pen. You got a problem. He will soon be in your house. Additional notes. Henty Berry, speaking in the Virginia House of Delegates 1832, described the situation as it existed in many parts of the South at the time. We have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which light may enter their minds, the slaves' minds. If we could extinguish the capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would then be on a level with the beast of the field, and we shall be safe. I am not certain that we would do it if we could find out the process, and that on the plea of necessity. I'm not certain if we could do it if we could find out the process, and that on the plea of necessity.
Yes, that completes the reading. Just on the last part, it was reinforcing um, the need for some level of, as we could say, ignorance on the part of the enslaved. But he was saying, like, the more they learn, particularly in regards to the language, then they'll be able to interpret, what we are saying and what we are saying about them, and in essence, know that, they're being we're being dishonest, or they're being dishonest. So, um, ignorance, uh, perpetual ignorance, I would argue, is a core component to the level of success of this plan. If we begin to value home ownership, as it said, that could turn into a problem as well. And it closes with one of the things that you'll hear a lot about the Willie Lynch letter is, was he a real person? For some reason, that seems to be where the focus goes. Was he a real person? But the last note speaks to an actual fact of what was stated in the United States legal floor, Virginia House of Delegates 1832, which speaks to, what Willie Lynch is saying in this letter and what Willie Lynch is trying to achieve in this letter. And saying, at that time, they had nearly extinguished, our ability to even think about, freedom and liberation. But in my opinion, that reinforces the the truth of the methods, not necessarily the person, but the condition. I think would be hard to argue. So we'll open the floor. Any questions, comments, observations on the Willie Lynch letter? But again, just in retrospect, as it said, it talked about its focus being to create a perpetual system. And they felt that in order to do that, you have to have a heightened focus on the woman and the offspring. And if you can manage that relationship, and I think he said originally, like if you do it for 1 year, then you can have guaranteed results. But if we think about this being done for hundreds of years, then we can kind of potentially understand some of the challenges that we have to overcome in our time. But the goal was to create a system of perpetual compliance to what you can call white superiority, white supremacy, to where you create and breed, individuals that know their place in society and don't question their place in society, and know that they look forward to contributing their bodies and their lives um, to to the labor of other people's ideas. Um, and again, the first thing was put the fear of God in the man, put the attitude of independence in the woman, um, teach the children to be backwards. So teaching the female children to be independent like their mothers, teaching the Negro boys to be physically strong but mentally weak. Best example would be many of our athletes today, that go into entertainment. They are the pinnacle of a physical specimen. But when you think about the ideas of nation building, um, that's not even in their in their realm of thought. Um, but that is what this system wants for us. That's the perfect, Negro in this society is one that's physically strong but mentally weak and ready to submit themselves to the corporate structure. Hey, give me millions of dollars. I'll do whatever it is that you want me to do. That's the mentality that they have created. And here we are. So I'll stop there. Questions, comments, observations?
Well, it's still it's still being perpetuated perpetuated today, but in a different form. A perfect one was what you just, alluded to with the sports. But also there's still, an effort to break up the black family. So, and one of the way we see this happening is the mass and overwhelming incarceration of black males to keep the prison industrial complex going. So in a sense, they're keeping a form of system going. It's not with cotton like it was in our sugar cane or whatever, as it was in the days, but they're keeping that system going, an unfair system, if you really look into all the cases. And but the goal again is to break up the family and to keep the male weak and to keep the mentality of the female being, well, you know, if we have to do for ourselves, we have to raise the kids. And it's like just a lot of family with single mothers raising the kids. And then another thing they try to do, even um, Risa Islam speaks to this. He said the MMR vaccine is the biggest cause of autism in young boys. And we see that, when the infant's in the hospital, they try to get that crap into their virgin newborn body. And that whole thing, that whole process that they do in the hospital is linked to autism. So I could talk about a lot of other things. I mean, some of the things are less practiced today, with the redlining when it comes to home ownership. We can look at the time when the Negroes get out of slavery and they gave them nothing, no 40 acres, no mule. And, and then we pull ourselves by our own bootstrap when we even had no bootstrap to pull and build all the Black Wall Streets, numerous amount of, and we see how those were destroyed, some kind of lie or whatever. We see how some communities were destroyed. Now they're lakes or now they're parks. It just goes on and on and on. That's why the only freedom we'll see is economic freedom. We see it even on the African continent. Every time a leader rise up to do good for his people or to do good for the continent, they did a double whammy. I mean, not only were they doing their Willie Lynch in here, but they were doing it on the continent in a different way, colonizing, stealing the resources, assassinating leaders who speak against it. I mean, so until we have economic prosperity and freedom on a global scale, I think even though it's not as painful as in the past, it still exists and it'll continue to exist until we, wake up, so to speak. That's what I have to add today. Race first.
Race first.
Race first. Thank you, President. Brother Art.
And they still try to impose the fear factor by killing us in the street.
Yes.
It's a lot of work we got to do to overcome this. And with this group of people in office now, they're putting this on steroids because they are trying to take us way back, and we really need to think about the things we are doing and how we can unite and fight this thing. Race first, fam.
Race first. Race first. Thank you, Brother Art. Yeah. Both of you, well, the Lady President had a little more in-depth response, but both speaking to one of the first things that this letter spoke about is, putting that fear of God into the men and making them an example for our sisters and future mothers. But whether it's killing us on the streets, killing us, off camera, um, or incarcerating us unjustly, all of these lead into the the mother bringing up the daughter to be, I mean, not the daughter, but the son to be compliant. When we, when our mothers see the levels of incarceration of black men, um, that automatically encourages them to raise us to not be revolutionary, to be compliant. They don't want us to suffer the same fate as many other black men or other leaders in the past. And out of their desire for us to live and their love for us and our comfort, to avoid the hardships that they have seen our brothers and fathers go through. They raise us to be docile, compliant, which is not going to change our situation. But that's the first thing is, brothers, we've got to regain our courage, um, to the point where sisters can begin to trust, courage as well as reliability in the home, so that our sisters can look to us for protection and for a level of trust. But without us providing that hedge of protection, um, our sisters are going to continue to feel vulnerable.
Another, there also, did you want to say something, Brother Macy's?
You can go ahead.
So another tool that they use, we all know the mass destruction that crack did to the Black community.
Yes,
I mean, we could be here like the whole day talking about it.
Yep.
But I'm not saying this, and I've not done the in-depth research of it. But I do. I have an instructor. He's from one of the Caribbean island. He's a trading instructor. So I get on this trading class, but he always tells us all about avoiding refined sugar, and he always talks about marijuana. And he said they deliberately put marijuana certain places to make male docile. And then he's like a scientist too. So he goes into the in-depth study of it and how it destroys the Y chromosome. And I mean, it's really deep. I was like, what? And I mean, he just goes on and on about that. So they're tools that are used to destroy us, or to destroy the family, or to destroy the male. And the problem is we're not even aware of some of the tools. So that's even deeper. It's one thing when you know, but when you don't know, you understand, that's another deep, crazy thing that that the more you learn, you see how sinister these people are. So, but anyway.
Yeah. Briefly,
Yeah.
before Brother Macy's goes, I mean, I think the key thing for us to understand, outside of the tactics, which will continue to evolve, but we've got to understand what is their motive. And their motive is to break up the black family. So whether it's, drugs, whether it's careers, or, trying to get us to sign up for military, incarcerate, school to prison pipeline. There's several tactics, but we should be aware of what they're trying to prevent, and make sure that is a focus for us, and how we can ensure the development of strong black families. Brother Macy's.
I think about this. I guess for me, I define the energy of this as I guess, a fear of consequence. And they put the consequence of rebellion in front of us so much that we start, I believe that's the only fate if we choose a certain action. So I do want to talk about kind of 2 points. One was the willingness to face the consequence. In the spiritual sense, I think Garvey said one of the greatest examples said, "Take up your cross and follow me." I think that was a request to be willing to die. But I feel like a lot of our leaders were willing to die during those times of revolution. They
Hmm.
knew the consequence and the possibility, but that didn't stop them. But sometimes it's easier to face the consequence when it's a lot of people who are also willing to face that same consequence. So
Hmm.
the integration of us into their society created a different fear of consequence, and that fear of consequence became loss of status, the loss of benefit, sometimes
Okay.
the loss of or sometimes even the grace, the right grace. We sometimes don't even want to offend our white friends. Some of our people get into that state where we fearing consequences, so that the same energy shifts into not fearing the pain and destruction, but fearing discomfort, fearing losing what we believe is our tool and key to the life we want to live. And sometimes that idea of what not losing that becomes not rocking the boat, uh, being content with what's offered, no matter even if it's just the crumbs. And a lot of our people have gotten complacent with that and don't want to lose that, so they're not willing anymore. So sometimes those people who were willing, it's almost like, what am I even doing it for? These people are asleep. Um,
Hmm.
so it just takes us to raise the cowbell of what's possible again, so that people can be willing again. And those consequences, we must always be reminded that we all have a promised death, and so many of us avoid living to avoid that promised death.
Hmm.
Um, so um, we got to sometimes even replace the fear of that. Um, I know sometimes it's very, very fearful to be have your body mutilated and still have to live, though. And that's a consequence that they show sometimes that this beast does.
Yep.
Even that, we have to make the example of a person who is willing be an example that people can see, and trust that the Creator already has just our time in it, that we're gonna go and how we're gonna go in the end, and be willing again.
So, yeah, it's going to take a generation, that is willing, I would say, but willing to go as far as it needs to go, for the next generations to make some progress, but also have an example of courage.
I do want to just say one last thing. Garvey had a willingness to die. He said, if you he'll come back in the whirlwind. He already knew the extent of the consequence, and he was willing. So he set the example as well.
Yes, sir. When late president mentioned the drugs and things like that, it made me think of our history, recent history. Obviously 1920s, the height of the UNIA. That's when Marcus Garvey was attacked, by the United States and exiled. But that didn't stop, the efforts of what became COINTELPRO, counterintelligence program, CIA. Um, Marcus Garvey transitioning in 1940, um, but also, us as a UNIA beginning to put an emphasis on leadership and development. 50s, I don't have anything specifically in the 50s, but obviously the 60s would be when, Malcolm X was killed, Martin Luther King was killed. But that was the sign of the resurgence of Black nationalism, leadership that believed in Black nationalism following their assassinations. You get the rise of the Black Panthers, which did an excellent job of continuing and evolving that legacy. But at the same time, on the other end, you have the powers that be, the current dominant leadership, the current structure that's in charge, and you got to just think what they were thinking as all of this was taking place, the concerns that they had, and how to stop it or slow it down. But then you think about the cocaine and crack era, which subsequently followed, in the 70s and 80s. So that did a great job of setting, us back from a leadership, from a nationality, aspiration level. It set us back and kind of put us back, in our quote unquote place, and got many of our people to be content with that position. um,
And locked up.
Being locked up as well. But as the text even said, which I never paid attention to before I just read it again, there's some things that's out of their control. And then when it talked about, the as we become more enlightened, particularly in regards to our history, these things continue to resurge. These uh, our efforts, in our um, talk about independence and nationalism continues to come back up. So even after all of these attacks, all it takes is a little bit of knowledge. Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Amos Wilson, um, 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 Shake and G up. Um, my guy with what was the guy that did the other guy that was contemporary with John Clark?
John
Um,
Jackson.
Not Jackson. They came before the Columbus. Came before Columbus.
Ivan Van Sertima.
Ivan Van Sertima. But yeah, so you know, us becoming aware of these great historians and their historical work, it reignites and breaks the cycle again of our complacency, and we begin to say, hey, no, we are descendants of kings and queens. We're not second class, third class citizens. We deserve our own, and we can look at the 2020 struggle for black rights globally was also another resurgence. So that's promising to know that with all of the work that they are doing to control our psychology and our motivations, history is not, as long as we have access to history, that'll always be something that can break us out of these cycles of complacency. Chaplain Mitchell, I see you got your hand up.
Yeah, I think, everything that everybody's saying here and the document that's set before us, and it just seems like we have so many distractions to keep us from focusing on our family, focusing on developing ourselves. Um, uh, I think that we need to definitely work on creating our own platforms, like we actually have here, but we're so preoccupied with entertainment, who has the latest fashion, design, and these things keep us from focusing on the things that are most essential, um, such as taking care of our health, understanding which policies will enhance our society, not just nationally, but internationally. Um, uh, but I think overall, someone mentioned that a lot of us are sleeping. We have black senators that deny that there is any current Jim Crow things taking place. So sometimes our worst enemy is ourselves. So we have people that look like us that are perpetuating this same system. So it's a holistic thing that we need to look at. how do we address those individuals that are hindering our progress? So it's a very complex battle that we're actually fighting.
I think that I think one of the way we can address it is by bringing them into the fold. I think another way we can address it is like there's no shortage of rich black people out there. You know, we can look towards the athletes, or we can look toward the musicians, whether it's, famous rappers or whatever, and we see if the mindset isn't where it needs to be, they'll be rich, but they're not going to be doing any bidding for black people. They're just going to be rich and ignorant. So we bring them into the fold, and as we strengthen ourselves economically, we always have to keep the educating of our people in the forefront, because money without the proper education, it's not the best use of those kind of tools. Money is only a tool, and when we understand the plight of what's going on, and we see how we can all benefit as a whole, that's when the change will start to happen. And that's when we can't fall for their traps, because they're never going to stop setting traps for us. We have to rise above the traps. And that, I think, is going to help to make a difference economically, educationally, and otherwise.
I understand. I agree. I would have to, based on something you said, I would have to, most importantly, I would say educationally or intelligence, um, because many of the things that we speak about, economics, for example, as you said, it's a tool. But if we don't have, just like with any tool, if you don't use it properly, instead of being beneficial, it becomes detrimental or harmful. So if we don't have the right mentality, these tools, such as our economics, which could be used as a tool for our liberation, um, can become tools of our further indoctrination, or if that makes any sense. So we got to have the right mentality and motivation, um, as we acquire these tools. Anyone else? 6:50. Good discussion on the topic for tonight. Willie Lynch letter, Making of a Slave. And again, well, I didn't say again, but just to give some insight as to the reasoning for tonight's topic. Just wanted to, as we look across and we see the several issues that we have to deal with, in our path to liberation and self-reliance and self-governance. I kind of want to touch on some of the causes, and some of the root strategies that are being implemented against us. And again, the just to summarize the Willie Lynch letter, in my understanding, it's attack on the black family, um, starting with the man, to remove him from the family, to create a sense of fear in the black man, to create a sense of independence in the black woman, to create a sense of vulnerability in the black woman, and have the black woman raise up our black children, um, to be compliant or complicit, to avoid, the hardships that previous generations had to endure. So it's not a malicious, the cycle, as far as our people are in, and our mothers are in. It's not malicious. It's actually an act of love. Um, but once we do come of age, we do come of consciousness. We begin to understand our mothers did a great job to get us to make sure we survived to this point. But now that we are here, and now that we have the ability to know the truth, and to know our true history as a people, we have to do the best that we can, to make that realization easier for future generations, so that they know, no, you're not, there's more to life than professional sports or to being an entertainer. Um, there's more purpose in your race, other than those limited capabilities.
President John, can you hear me?
Yes, First Vice President.
I also wanted to say Willie Lynch is could be definitely defined as propaganda, the act itself. Um, so understanding what propaganda is and the goal of transferring the idea, we have opportunities to sometimes to focus on a different idea, a different truth. And I really feel like race pride and self-reliance and course of African philosophy, it gives us a different blueprint to look to be able to retool our mind, our consciousness, our psyche. And I think, just looking at it like that, that we have to fight back in the psyop by refocusing ourselves and looking to those tools that we have to be able to do that.
Absolutely. I'm with you. Again, my reasoning for bringing this forth, was to look at again the motivation and the overall strategy, what they are trying to achieve, and how we can utilize our tools and the tools that Mr. Garvey gave us to combat um, these efforts to, attack the Black family, and attack the Black community. A couple of things that he spoke to specifically, I think he talked about age, color. Um, so top of my list is age. Only because it starts with A. Color. So in regards to age, obviously we in the UNIA, we don't have any distinctions in regards to age other than adult and youth. Either you're a youth and you don't have to pay any dues, or your dues are waived, or you're an adult past the age of 18, and we are expecting you to be an active member and to pay your dues. But whether you're 18 or 99 years old, um, you're still an equal, y'all both are equally an active member. You both get one vote on the elections. However, there is obviously, as Africans, we have a preference and a reverence for our elders. So an elder would still get a higher level of kind of acknowledgement just on the fact that they're an elder. But and maybe that's a maybe that goes to Willie Lynch. But I think again the Willie Lynch thing is acknowledging our differences is not Willie Lynch. It's when we become advocates for our differences. That's when we are buying into Willie Lynch. So if I say, hey, the youth are better than the elders, or the elders are better than the youth, that's getting into Willie Lynch. But if we all are working together for our general benefit as a race, and there are differences in age, I think that's working counter to Willie Lynch. It's color as well, to promote, as Mr. Garvey says, the idea of the UNIA is to uplift the standard race. We don't believe in colorism or any preference for any particular shade of the race is not Garveyism. So that directly counters Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch ideology is, it's the blood that's at the top of the flag. It's not, how dark you are, how light you are. It's the fact that you identify your connection to the original man and woman from Africa. So, we combat colorism, we combat age. Um, we try, it shouldn't be a east, west, north, south thing. The south is better than the north, the east is better than the west. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be class differences. Hey, I'm a doctor and you're a garbage man. I'm better than you. That's buying into Willie Lynch. But, you know, us being different and having differences is a good thing. But when I think it's about identity. That's really what it's about. And it's how we identify ourselves and where we put pride in our identity. Even if it's man versus woman, that's buying into Willie Lynch. But, us being Africans, being children of the Most High God, um, should be kind of where we start. And we should see each other likewise as such. And then we can get into the lower characteristics, my age, um, 40, 50 years old, a male, my profession, but that shouldn't be how we lead out. You shouldn't be leading, hey, I'm doctor, so and so. I've got this degree and this degree, and I'm not talking about Umar, but that just applies. But that shouldn't be the foundation for our appreciation for each other.
And we see how when you get into the colorism or uh you see all of that stuff is just used as divide and conquer tactics.
Yep.
Like one incident that comes to mind is the I don't know how many of you guys remember the Rwandan genocide. And I think that happened in the 90s. Does anybody remember the Rwandan genocide
I
where
remember the movie, but I
they
don't.
divided up the two tribes and the Belgians went in there and they started giving privileges to the ones who had closer to a European feature and they were doing all kind of crazy instigating and madness. But anyway, it culminated into a genocide where people were just hacking each other apart. I
Mhm.
think it was the Hutsi and the Tutsi or whatever the tribes were called, and they literally um, machete each other to the tune of 800,000 people were killed during that genocide. That's before Rwanda is what it is today. And now you have both tribes after they went through that, they're marrying each other. They've come to a whole different level of understanding, but that was all instigated by the Belgian. And almost 1 million people died because of that divide and conquer madness. And they still have a lot of divide and conquer stuff going on in South Africa. So, these are tools that are used that we have to be careful of, and that's why, as President John, you were saying, it's great that we don't worry about your shade. It's just about the blood,
Mhm.
and we don't care about your religion. You understand, we're the government for all Black people,
Yep.
and that's why, you know
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring this forth, was to touch on both sides, their strategy, as well as our aims and objects and principles that Mr. Garvey brought forth. Um, and you can see how, Garveyism, UNIA, is a threat to white supremacy, we could say. But it naturally, and I'm using that word, no pun intended, but it naturally gets us back in line with cooperation, seeing ourselves as one people and not jumping first to our differences. Anyone else? Great discussion. Chaplain Mitchell? Chaplain Mitchell, you there?
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I was muted. No, what I was going to say was everyone gave very great insight. I think that the UNIA-ACL makes us more disciplined. We understand our purpose clearer.
Hmm.
I think uh, you are more in touch with the reality of things. It doesn't matter what degree you have, what position you hold. You still have to go back to your roots. That you are a Afro descendant, and it's a reality check. But I think the challenge comes is some of us are so comfortable with what we have.
Yes.
And it's hard to let go. It says now, I have to stop thinking about myself. Now I have to think about my fellow brother in the race. Why are they not doing well? So it takes a lot of discipline. But if you're comfortable, it is really hard to let go. And that Willie Lynch letter really exposes the things that we don't want to let go.
Well, again, the way I see it, the word is ego.
Absolutely.
What we have built and worked for in this land and this lifetime, many of us have spent, 10 years on the minimum, 10, 20, 30 years to obtain and acquire not just the material things that we have, but the social status. To be called, doctor, to be, called, Esquire, attorney. I know we got attorney Emotep, um, captain, or whatever it may be. Um, the materials that we can acquire, the type of car that one could drive, the type of home that one could own. Um, we work hard for these things, and we, several years to acquire these things, and our ego that America has created teaches us to put those things on the forefront. You should respect me because I am Dr. So and so. I've got the latest 2026 Mercedes. I live in, the nice part of the city. I should be respected as such. And that's where we have the problem. Because um, we don't necessarily want to put those things to the side and come in as a common, brother and or sister. You know, um, Generally, you're an African at the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, you're an African. So while your acquisitions are good and they do display a level of skill and mastery and expertise that will be beneficial, um, this is not America, and this society is not going to defer to an individual because of their social status or economic achievement. But again, that expectation that the group would defer to those achievements is more so in line with the Willie Lynch psychology. So we really have to. It's a core psychological battle that we are undertaking, and we're asking individuals to question. But that's why I've mentioned the word of cognitive dissonance. I think that's the right word, or associate. I don't think it's associative, disassociative identity. I don't, but it's in that realm of thinking that you are someone or something, but realizing at the end of the day, outside of that exterior, that facade, you're just like the person in need, down the street. And that's where we have a challenge as a people is grasping, coming to understanding of that. It's like, no, I'm no. There's no way me and that person are on the same level. Yes, you are. We all are. That's where we start until collectively we begin to earn, levels of respect and rank, for lack of a better term. But um, that has to happen in-house. That you can't bring that from the outside and say, "Hey, I should be respected in here for what I did out there." If that makes sense.
It does. We see how they destroy people that have attained so much. People like Bill Cosby and people like uh, O.J. Simpson and others. I mean, I'm not saying there's no, but they're all saints or whatever.
But
But we see how quick they can destroy someone of prominence in our race and remind them who they are, so to speak.
yes, unfortunately, but what I'm saying is more so to the challenge that we have of bringing everyone together, um, and the personalities and the characters that this world has created. Um, some people truly love, these characters, and they don't wish to relinquish or put them aside for a moment to come together um, under one banner as equals. That's what I'm speaking to is when we that's an expectation that I've seen of our people is, hey, I'm such and such, I've done such and such. Um, so there's a level of expectation of, we should fall in line with them because of their achievement in this world, which is valid, but no, we gotta come together. We gotta all be on the same base level, be willing to be on the same base level, and begin to progress, given our own internal standards, not external America or other nations' standards. Okay, that's all I got. Last comments, questions before we move to membership. Okay. Um, Lady President, could you host membership?
Sure. Great discussion. And yes, Brother John, you're correct. Ultimately, our unity is what's going to make the difference, regardless of all the stuff that are just distractions that certain folks want us to focus on. But yes, so let's see as we
Just
Did you want to say anything again, President John? We start the member share off with you, or
I'll come at the end, but this will make sense to you. Well, this will only make sense to you. But the reason why I was saying what I was saying at the end is like with our Garbage Day planning, how our entertainment coordinator has a certain expectation or preference behind certain individuals. He's like, hey, this is, oh man, do you know who this is? This is such and such, and they've done such and such and such. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, that don't mean nothing to me. Like, are they African? Are they supportive of what we're doing? That's the only thing that really matters. But Lady President, you probably the only one that understand what I'm saying.
yeah, I think, yeah. At the end of the day, I think everyone kind of does. At the end of the day, is the mission.
Yes,
What is your mission? What is your aim for yourself and for your people?
absolutely.
And if it lines up, then they're a good candidate.
Exactly. Yep. That's that's exactly what I've been trying to communicate. So, all right, that's
Yes.
all I had. Well, you can go through.
Okay. All right. Greetings, everyone, again, and thank you all for your presence on this call today. We will start member share with Brother Omasius. Please unmute yourself and let us know what's on your mind today. Anything you want to share?
Thanks, First Family. Brother Macy's first vice president, business development coordinator. We had a business development meeting on Thursday, and we talked about our mission, what our mission was here, and some things that we were putting in place to help us execute that mission. I know some people were here before. We talked about starting a nonprofit to be able to get capital to exercise our mission. And the second thing we talked about too, I know as think about Willie Lynch, and I think about how many people draw their status from titles in society. We want to create a way where people can draw their social status from saying, I cooperate in giving back to my community. So we talked about starting a business index where we could track businesses who are committed to saying, hey, I'm a business that I want to sign up and register myself as a UNIA business and give back to my community. There can be status draw for cooperation. And as we reach out to businesses to be in our business index, we want to also support those businesses. And hopefully our support for those businesses can be a reason that they say, yes, I'll sign up, because it's a community that's giving back, that they give back to, that also gives back to them. We commit to just giving back to each other. I always think about how the economic system is built on relational terms, and how how we can show interest in each other. We can show interest in what each other are doing, and we don't have to wait for interest from a bank to be of value to somebody else. So going to continue to have our business development meetings every two Thursdays from now. And we looking for what you're interested in. Come on the call. It's Thursdays, every other Thursday at 8:30. I'm sorry, 8 o'clock p.m. And hopefully we can show interest in what you're doing. Each person has something valuable they can bring to the collective to show that we don't have to depend on the system. We can depend on our ideas. We can depend on our effort, and we can depend on the collective work that we can commit to get to showing interest in each other. Race first.
Race first, and thank you. Thank you for that, Brother Omasius. Great to have you on the call with us today. And definitely, we're going to start firing up that Thursday business call because at the forefront of everything is going to be the economics piece. So, yes,
Yeah.
thank you for that reminder.
I apologize. The third thing that we
Lost him.
I think he's still on. He's probably just muted somehow. Oh, no, wait, he's not on.
okay, you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yes, okay.
Oh yeah, I was saying the third thing that we talked about on our business call. Brother Malik brought it up. Starting business one-on-one classes where people can just learn business. Um, I think it's important for us to be a resource for you all, for our members, so that we could
Yes,
know that we don't have to depend on the system. We can depend on each other, and if you have expertise that you can bring to the table, uh, please do so. And we want to, like I said, share it with each other so that we know that we don't have to depend on them.
yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And moving right along, up next is Attorney Emotep. Emotep, if you're available, please unmute yourself and share whatever is on your mind with us today.
Yes, thank you very much. I do have something to share. I recently did a test here, a DNA test through the African ancestry. This company, DNA company online, to get my family heritage. You know, where did I come from? And thinking all these years, I didn't know, and how unfortunate that is. And that is a reason why I think, you know, in part, we're having so much problems where we are, added, that we don't know where we came from. Uh, the results are illuminating. My mother, they can do two type of testing, uh, maternal and paternal. And my mother's results were, um, there was an indication of multiple countries and multiple ethnic groups. And they analyzed that by stating our analysis looked at the frequency of your lineage, how common it is within an ethnic group and region. Ethnic groups are formed around social and cultural characteristics, not genetic characteristics. So there are some ethnic groups that are very closely linked, sharing the same genetic lineages, even though they have different dialects, beliefs, practices, and religions. So, as a result, we often find the same genetic lineages within different groups and regions. And my mother's ancestry, genetic ancestry, mainly found that we were, well, excuse me, she was, and her lineages, her mother and the female lineages, mother, grandmother, their other female heads and lineages up to some 2,000 years ago at the most, they say, was of the Fula people living in Guinea-Bissau, the Kru people living in Liberia, and the Mendi and Temni people living in Sierra Leone. And my father, paternal ancestry, detailed that they are of the Balanta and Fula people living in Guinea-Bissau. So now I know this helps me out. I would encourage, all African people to find out their lineages. Again, this is helping me out. You get a certificate of ancestry from the company, and I have a certificate here for both the paternal and maternal bloodline DNA linkage. So that's what I wanted to share. And
Wow, that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing.
yes,
I know you were glad when you found it's all African ancestry. Anyway, yeah, that's awesome. That's interesting. Wow. It's amazing what they can do. So did you have to I mean, I guess they just test your DNA to determine what was matriarchal or paternal just from your sample alone?
correct. And I guess the test is they say shares maternal genetic ancestry.
Wow. That's amazing what they can do. Well, thank you so much for being on the call with us today, and thank you so much for sharing that important information, Brother Emotep.
If I could ask Attorney Motep a question.
Yes.
Attorney Motep, if you don't want to get to specifics, generally, how much is a service like that cost? And is it just a standard rate, or they have different levels of research they can do?
No, it's a standard rate. And it's maternal and paternal, yeah, genetic ancestry testing.
Remember what it costs?
Yeah, yes, $300 per test.
What's that's reasonable for you?
Wow.
Yeah,
It
Lenny.
answers the question, so that is good. At
Yeah.
least you're not wondering, you know?
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Attorney Motep. Thank
Vice
you.
versa.
Thank you, Attorney Motep. Race first. Thank you for being on the call with us today. And next up, we have Brother Art. Brother Art, if you're on the call, please unmute yourself and share whatever is on your mind with us today.
Race first, family. I don't have anything to share today, except that the meeting was excellent. I enjoyed the conversation. Again, race first, family.
Race first. Thank you, brother.
Race first, Brother Art. thank you for being on the call with us today, and thank you for what you've shared earlier. And yes, it was a very enlightening, enlightening meeting. And so, okay, we will go ahead and bring up Chaplain Mitchell. Chaplain Mitchell, if you're on the call with us, please unmute yourself and share whatever is on your mind today.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure being on the call. I learned a lot. I think I chimed in probably around about I want to say probably like 6:50 or so. Maybe a little bit before that, but it was definitely a very enlightening meeting. I'm hoping to learn a lot more. But I don't have anything else further to share. Thank you all for having me on this meeting.
Thank you, Chaplain Mitchell. Thank you for being on the call, and thank you for your input as well. Okay.
We did have a sister.
I think we still have another brother who hasn't gone.
Okay.
I think iPad is the sister. It
Yes.
says iPad. And then I think brother Nkosi. I don't think brother Nkosi said anything yet. Brother Nkosi, you're up. If you're on the call, please unmute yourself and share whatever is on your mind today.
I don't see his audio connected.
Oh, okay. All right. Is Sister Celia on or no?
Cecily?
I'm sorry. I'm mixing up with somebody. Sister Cecily on with us or?
No.
I thought she was on earlier, but I guess not. I'm sorry. Okay. iPad. Who's iPad?
Queen Kashiba?
Yes, raise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome, Queen. I'm sorry. And it just says iPad. It didn't have your name on it. But we're happy to have you on the call, and please share whatever is on your mind with us today.
Yeah, what's on my mind is they're gonna have big celebration. I gotta wait till I get the information in Georgia for the Juneteenth thing. And they're gonna have everybody, they're gonna have the Pampers and everybody there. So everybody is invited there. But they're gonna have the Pampers doing the Black Panthers, new Black Panther party doing the security for there. For what?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But it'll be in Georgia. When I get that information, I get it to you. Race first.
Race first. And thank you for reminding us about Juneteenth. And hopefully we'll all get the flyer before the event. So whoever can attend will attend. Thank you for that reminder.
Yeah, race first. Very beautiful
Race first.
meeting. Race first.
Yes. Race first. Thank you for being on with us today. Okay, so I believe that would wrap up our member share. So back to you, President John.
Okay, Brother Abdul Aziz joined. Let me give a couple announcements while we got everybody on. Then I'll pass it to Brother Abdul. I'm not sharing the right screen. So everyone should have seen in their email invitation, there's a couple flyers that I included. For those that are in Atlanta, we'll be at Omanala Griot in the southwest part of the city tomorrow to celebrate African Liberation Day. So this is an ongoing collaboration that we've done with several Pan-African groups here in the city, and we'll be continuing that effort tomorrow, 3 to 6 p.m. at the Omanala Griot Museum. So Please come out and support if you are in the city. And following that, there's actually another program before this one, but that I'll send that to that's another local program. On May 30th, our youth coordinator, Brother James Wilson, will be doing a reading or doing a lecture on Malcolm X at a local library for our youth. So I'll send out that to our executive body at the very minimum. But for everyone else, next month, we've got a special program for next month. So June 14th, so this will be our next mass meeting. We'll have special guest, Brother Kabir Hadass. He's a former commissioner for District 2, former Minister of Education. And he'll be giving a lecture on the President Generals of the UNIA. He'll go from Marcus Garvey, his transition in 1940, James R. Stewart, William Sherrill, Thomas W. Harvey, Charles L. James. I forgot who's after Charles L. James. Marcus Garvey Jr., Redmond Battle, and Mwalimu G, Senghor Baye, and President General Michael Duncan. So I'm looking forward to this. I am inviting everyone to attend. There'll be a special room meeting number and password. It's all in the flyer, but please come out. It'll be, I expect a very powerful presentation from Brother Kabir. That's all I really got is upcoming events. And again, you can find those flyers in your invitation for today's mass meeting. Other than that, I just want to thank everybody for attending. Thank everybody for paying dues. Officers are doing a great job. Yeah, we're doing a really good job. I just spoke with Sister Cecily on Friday. We went over our financial report for the month of April. I need to submit that, but yeah, I'm pretty pleased with where we are. We do need to be more active in our programs in the city. We're also looking at a July 4th park event for executive officers. So a small gathering for our officers on the 4th of July. Sister Cecily's working on that as well. So I don't have anything else, just those two upcoming programs. And then we'll start talking about Juneteenth after our next mass meeting as well. Thank you, Lady President.
Thank you, President John. Great topic, great discussion.
Brother Abdul, I know you joined late. Anything you want to share with us? We're getting ready to close out. Is he still? He keep dropping off. Oh, he's joining. He's trying to join. Don't look like he was able to join. Anyone else? Any closing comments? Everyone had an opportunity to share. Okay. Yeah, looks like Brother Abdul dropped off. Brother Omasius, could you do us the honor? Close us out with our motto and our slogan, please. Okay, Brother Mason's not there. Brother Art, you want to close us out?
Okay. Everybody face the flag and put your black fist in the air. And repeat after me. One God.
One God.
One aim.
One aim.
One destiny.
One destiny.
Africa.
Africa.
For the Africans.
For the Africans.
Those at home.
Those at home.
And those abroad.
and those
Those
abroad.
abroad.
One Africa.
One Africa.
Africa.
Race first, family.
Race
Race
first.
first.
Peace, family.
Peace and love and good night to everyone.
Peace.